Mr. Peter Kotsiopulos. He's today's keynote speaker. He's a colleague, a lifelong Kearney and Central Nebraska business owner, and a wonderful friend to our campus. He is a second-generation Greek American, a native of Kearney, and a UNK alumnus. He earned his baccalaureate degree in business administration in 1970. I think it's fair to say that Pete's entire professional life has been devoted to service. In addition to his 36-year career as an owner of Liberty Cleaners, a highly successful dry cleaning, formal wear, and linen supply business that's reached 26 Nebraska counties, he has served, and oh, how he has served. He was elected to the City Council in Kearney numerous times and was Kearney's mayor from 1990 until 2002. He was a member of the Nebraska Postsecondary Education Commission, the University of Nebraska Medical Center Board of Counselors, the Nebraska Diplomats Board, the Executive Board of the Nebraska League of Municipalities, the Boy Scouts of America District Committee, Nebraska's Business Development Council, part of the Innovation Zone Commission and Workforce Investment Board, and the UNK Chancellor's Advisory Board. And that's not all. He supported and served many philanthropic and community organizations such as the Nebraska Arts Council, the Museum of Nebraska Art, the Sertoma International, and the Nebraska Economic Developers Association. He's been active in the state and local Chamber of Commerce, and he's still serving today as the Senior Director of Development for the University of Nebraska Foundation. He and his wife, Jane, have 2 adult daughters, Kara and Julia, and 5 grandchildren that he probably is going to resist the temptation about spending his entire speech on. Many of you know that on July 1st, UNK celebrated its 25th year as part of the university system. And this is our 111th year as an institution of higher learning. With this in mind, I was trying to think of an appropriate speaker that could tie all of this together. And who among us has played a part of all of this history? And it was a very easy answer: Pete Kotsiopulos. Pete, it is an honor to welcome you to the podium. I look forward to hearing your address. I'd like you all to meet and welcome Pete Kotsiopulos.
Almost sounds like I died. Phew. Thank you, Julie. Chancellor Christensen, members of the Board of Regents, administration, assembled faculty, and most important, you, the members of the UNK class of 2016, and your family and friends. I thank you, Chancellor, so much for extending the opportunity for me to share this important milestone with all of you today. I'm honored and humbled by this very special recognition. I think I've already gone through 2 shirts. Recalling from my undergraduate days, several said it would be a very cold day when I would ever be on this stage. Turns out it's not too bad. I'd also like to acknowledge my family and extended family with us today. They are rocks, all of them, and I thank you for attending. Now, I must tell you, I have to be on script today for a reason. Normally, I use a couple of words or phrases as an outline, but Jane, my wife and best friend of 43 years, has more often than not said, "Pete, I just asked you what time it was, not how to build the watch." This is going to be a non-traditional commencement message. I'm going to not preach to the choir, because I know you graduates are already desirous of being the best and brightest in your respective disciplines. Since I graduated 46 years ago at the summer commencement in 1970, my comments might be considered ancient. I could share with you today about duty, about honor, country, or I could talk about the debate of what is earned versus entitled, or your new goals, or obligations and responsibilities, or perhaps about just being a good person, a good neighbor, and a good friend. But today, with some encouragement from the Chancellor, as he alluded to, I'd like to share a few historical nuggets, bear with me, and sprinkle in some personal perspective as it relates to the history of this campus and community. It's historical because several celebrations have occurred and will occur during this calendar year on this campus. And therefore, I believe some of that history deserves some time in today's ceremony because this is the 25th anniversary of Kearney State becoming the University of Nebraska at Kearney. 111 ballots, 111 years, 25 years, and 9 leaders. Lock in those numbers, 111, 25, and 9. These numbers could come under the heading of the engine that could, that engine being Nebraska Normal, Kearney Normal, Nebraska State Teachers College, Kearney State College, and now a proud University of Nebraska at Kearney. This institution does have a rich history, but you also need to know the journey hasn't been easy for this campus. And I'm sure Chancellor Christensen will attest the challenges and rewards will continue in this arena of higher education. Now to the first number, 111. In 1903, with some guidance from Senator Charles Warner, it took the Nebraska Department of Education 111 ballots and 2 days to select the city of Kearney as the site of college campus for Greater Nebraska. Forward to 1905, and as coincidence would have it, 111 years ago, the first students attended Nebraska Normal on this campus. The Nebraska legislature invested $50,000 to begin this effort, but a little known truth was the first chancellor, then called president, signed a personal note to keep the campus solvent. Hopefully it won't come to that, Chancellor. Talk about perseverance, patience, and persistence during those early years. I believe we should all buy into those 3 words, perseverance, patience, and persistence, as we continue down life's path. Next, I mentioned 25 years. In fact, 25 years and 28 days to be exact. That date was July 1st, 1991, and most of you graduates weren't born yet. A few weeks ago on July 1st, over 500 people released balloons near the Peterson-Yanny Carillon Tower to celebrate the campus's 25th year in the University of Nebraska system, namely, and joining its sister institutions, namely the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and the University of Nebraska-Omaha. However, the 2 or 3 years leading up to that joyous day were yet another challenge. 34 years ago, I began serving 6 years on the State College Board of Trustees under Governors Carey and Orr. It was not easy for me to be part of a board that was the governing body for Chadron State, Peru State, Wayne State, and as well as then Kearney State. In early discussions, this board was considering support of all 4 of the state college campuses becoming part of the university system, which sounded reasonable at the time. After a lot of hand-wringing, the idea failed. I was reminded several times of a phrase of my paternal grandfather, "Opu thethelis na pas, thetha pas," which translated from Greek is, "Where you fare to go, you probably won't." Then there was, Then there was a movement to have Kearney named the Nebraska State University at Kearney within the state college system. This met the public and private sector with many reservations, that is, the possibility of 2 university systems within our state. Needless to say, that failed after a 3-4 vote, and this idea was also abandoned. What was missing during this time was the thinking of what was meant for the greater good rather than selfish motives. For me, it underscored the difference between politics and statesmanship, those more concerned about tomorrow versus those looking out for next generations. Those 6 years on the State College Board taught me to be fair, open, and accountable. Ethics and principles also were in play during this time. I may be crossing a line here, but reflecting of the times, I came across a verse Proverbs 27:3, to be exact, which reads, "Stone is heavy, sand is a burden, but provocation by a fool is heavier than both." I had three choices during those days: join, leave, or change. To join, integrity told me that was not a good alternative. I could leave and ask the governor to replace me, which was not my style, or I could help change it. I had to pick a lane and choose the latter with some guidance from a person who became a great friend from those years and beyond, Senator Jerome Warner, one of the longest-serving state senators who, sitting on his tractor one day, came up with the idea of just having Kearney become part of the university system. Ironic, he was the son, pardon me, he was the son of Charles Warner, who I mentioned earlier, when this campus was established back in 1903. Senator Warner shared with me, if you want to make change, then you have to work with the machinery in place and work to change it, which was reflective of his agricultural background. Once again, politics versus statesmanship, and not reduce issues to a personal level. The chancellor at this time was Bill Nestor. He was like a dog with a bone on this issue. The result was of his perseverance, patience, and persistence, along with Senator Warner's statesmanship, drove that tractor, or the engine that could, through the Nebraska legislature, the governor's office, the Board of Regents, to approve Kearney State becoming UNK. Now to the number 9, the 9 leaders who are the 9 presidents or chancellors who have led this institution since 1905. It will date me, but I've known 6 of those 9, and I've worked closely with the last 5 of those 6. Several of those individuals and I have developed lasting friendships, including the current holder of the title. Those relationships, though sometimes a little bumpy, brings me to another view of this campus and expanded my awareness of looking at the big picture and not succumb to single-issue individuals and organizations. Through these people's leadership, I have seen physical transformations on this campus, like Green Terrace being replaced by Leadenhall, being replaced by Antelope Hall. What is now Copeland Hall emerged from a building that housed a lower-level swimming pool and a non-regulation basketball court. In fact, Nebraska State Teachers College teams had to play their home games on high school courts in the region. I also recall a former Army barracks moved from the World War II Kearney Air Base that became the first student union on the site where Calvin T. Ryan Library now stands. Thomas Hall, now housing English and foreign languages, was initially the K-6 teaching lab for students in the neighborhood adjacent to our campus. And of course, the former TB hospital converted into what is now the College of Business and Technology. Or how about Cushing Coliseum, with its jam-packed basketball court, the 220-yard dirt track, which by the end of any track meet was just a cloud of dust through the building, and of course, the sold-out concerts with the likes of the Fifth Dimension, the Carpenters, and the Smothers Brothers. And I know some of you have never even heard of those. Today, we could blindfold an alum, even of recent as 10 years ago, take them to the middle of campus, take off the blindfold, and they wouldn't have any idea where they are. My point to all this, it took leadership, it took discipline, and it took some courage to accomplish these physical changes. Once again, looking at the bigger picture and not backing off from single-issue individuals and organizations. The same can be said for the academic side of this campus, which is really why UNK and we are here today. It takes a plan to continue reaching for quality faculty to deliver the products of this university that would describe these 9 leaders. I grew up a lot on this campus as an undergrad. I could have been a better student, probably, but the involvement with fellow students, the faculty, staff, student government, the fraternity, and now how to integrate into the community in a different way than just living here made a huge difference in my life. I became more aware, more worldly, if you will. I started my first business between my junior and senior years. The experiences taught me in order to become an effective leader, you need to learn how to follow. It also showed me there's a difference between hearing and listening. Most of us have a God-given talent of hearing, but we all need to continually work at listening. There is a difference. All of these examples teach a person to pay attention to what's going on around you, right or wrong, and learn from it. My final thought is about a different kind of relationship. It's about community and partnerships. More specifically, UNK and the city of Kearney, Buffalo County. This is a very unique partnership. People would give up a lot to have higher education in their community. In this case, the dynamics between UNK and the Kearney are very rare. UNK has matured from the normal school days to the best-kept secret of the 80s to now the difference maker it truly is. At the same time, its partner, the city of Kearney, has matured from being static for decades at 12 to 14,000 people to now over 33,000 in addition to this campus. Recently, the city inspector released a report of 3 pages of commercial projects, not residential, in the public pipeline, plus another 50 to 55 that are not yet public, to provide more steady growth in the near future within this city. UNK has a huge impact on those plans and investments. However, Kearney occasionally has to be reminded that UNK is a city within a city. Based on the last census, this campus could alone rank in the top 20 population-wise in the state. It has to deal with access, utilities, food, entertainment, security, maintenance, recreation, waste, recycling, and that list goes on. And to boot, UNK has students from all 93 counties, all 50 states, and 54 countries to make up the student body. Talk about diversity, it's here, and that has not always been the case. UNK's students, faculty, and staff are recognized and well respected in their various positions and disciplines. UNK is nationally honored for its cutting-edge work with undergraduate research, scholarly presenters, peer review and accreditation teams, and our student athletes like Laramie are highly visible ambassadors for this campus. UNK is also uniquely positioned for more campus collaborations with sister campuses in the private sector, noting the health science education complex with the University of Nebraska Medical Center last year, and some new engineering offerings beginning this fall with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, not to mention what may be on the horizon for University Village. All of these examples and more continually give our team at the Alumni and Foundation Office positive feedback as we travel and engage with alumni and supporters of this institution. A town and gown relationship is a gift to both, in this case, UNK and the city of Kearney. And like many things in this world, it is a privilege and not a right. My point here is, regardless of the presence of higher education or not, wherever life takes you, find places in your community to give back and make it better than when you arrived. I believe you graduates made a great choice in choosing the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Many have sacrificed to assist you in writing this chapter in your lives. I'm reminded of those sacrifices when a lady in Brazil, who while I was on a government education exchange during my years as mayor, came up to me and shared she had sold a refrigerator so her daughter could come to UNK. Now I challenge you to make some history for yourselves and make us all proud as you add to the history of this institution. Thanks again for indulging me. Godspeed and safe travel.